I am trans and my Christian dad just found out. Story 1. I am a 20-year-old trans girl who has been in the closet since the 9th grade. Growing up, I was never comfortable about who I was as a person and never felt I was built correctly. My father and his side of the family have always been super Christian religious, the type who are super against anything that isn't of any norm. I was always around my father since my parents got divorced at a young age, so I only saw my mom every other weekend. The rest of the time I was with my dad. My father remarried a very nice woman who I am happy to call my stepmother, who is also Christian but much more understanding and accepting. I was around to hear him talk about his hatred for gay people as well as trans people and saying things like, "You'd better never turn out like that," or "those people are such slur." Due to this, when I began feeling that I wasn't comfortable with myself as a man, I began to get scared. My father wasn't horribly abusive, but he had a tendency to hit whenever he was mad or to punish me or my sister or stepbrother. I don't hate him for this. My grandfather was the type that got out the leather belt whenever my dad was young. As the years went by, I continued to explore my feelings in dead secret, slowly coming to accept I was trans. When I came to realize that, I began to distance myself from my stepmom and father, mostly out of fear of what would happen if they found out. At the age of 19, I moved out of my dad's house into my mom's because I was working with my mom's boyfriend in his DJ business, and not only would it be better for me in terms of driving to my job, but it was also an excuse to run away from my problems at home with my father. Over the next year, I went through a lot. I began to become depressed due to the feeling of living a lie since I had not come out to anyone yet, and I decided I had to do something to change that. My, then, girlfriend ended up telling all my friends, without my permission. They were all super accepting, especially the one girl in the group who was super excited there was another girl in our FG finally. After how open and accepting my friends were, I decided the next step was my mother, who I was very close with, far more than my father. She as well was very accepting, however confused. She admitted it would take her a while to understand, but if it made me happy she would be behind me all the way. I knew that sooner or later I'd have to tell my father, even though I knew it would blow up in my face. Last Tuesday I decided to tell my stepmom, who I was also pretty close to, as I thought. She was a bit hesitant at first but told me she would be willing to understand and still loved me like a son, but suggested telling my father. Against my better judgment, I obliged and let her break the ice with my father. And just like I thought, it blew up in my face. My dad was pissed. He believed evil had gotten me, that he wanted to talk to me face to face, and that if I let evil take me, I would not be welcome around him or his family anymore. I am going to meet him next Thursday to talk face to face, and I'm horrified and anxious. Story 2. My best friend found out he was trans and we made it work between us. My best friend and I met when we were freshmen in high school. We were the only ones not sitting with anyone in the room at gym class, so she at the time sat next to me and we became quick friends. We liked the same franchises and she would show me ones that I didn't know that she liked, and I enjoyed hearing her talk about them. We ended up spending as much time together in school as we could, to the point where a lot of people outside of our small friend group thought we were dating. We dismissed what everyone said at the time and just enjoyed the talking we did, the lunches we shared, and the music we listened to together. That was until we were both romantically pursued by each other's friends who knew us before high school. I should mention that the guy she dated was not a good friend of mine. In fact, I only kept in contact with him because I respected his father, but the girl I dated was a good friend of my best friend from middle school. Anyway, my best friend and this guy started dating, and her friend and I started hanging out more as friends until one day she decided to kiss me by surprise, and by her request we started dating as well. However, a month goes by and she breaks off the relationship for her own reasons, but still demands to keep me as a placeholder for senior year stuff like homecoming and prom. Around the same time my best friend broke up with the other guy and he luckily moved to another state soon after. It turns out that he had a lot of problems and was extremely clingy to my best friend, basing their relationship on the one scene in the hit musical Heathers, the whole "Our Love Is God" bit. After my best friend and I started hanging out again, we told each other everything and confided in hating each other's exes together, which more or less tore down the rest of the friend group in its wake. By the time we graduated, only the two of us remained in contact with each other, which definitely made leaving for college a hurtful experience for both of us. That's the backstory for how our friendship built up over the years. Now onto the part the title suggests. Before moving to college, my best friend had already begun exploring and researching the LGBTQ community and had found a place in it, but after moving away from home and living in a dorm, they were able to look into it in much more depth. Over time, I began to see small things like trans pins on their lanyard and eventually a trans flag on their wall. They didn't tell me anything about it explicitly, so I couldn't piece together whether or not they're trans themselves or if having the flag and pins was in solidarity. Either way, I felt that I was missing out on a huge point of their life, and I began to feel that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with them. Eventually, they referred to themselves as trans in a casual conversation, and I was able to naturally ask them for more details. It turns out that they are in fact a trans man, and my presumptions were proven correct. About a year went by after that, and we found ourselves spending time at his house over one of our breaks like we did in high school. I was still wrestling with the feelings I'd gained for him and just thought of spending as much time as I possibly could with him before we eventually drifted apart, until at one point in the night in his dark bedroom, he grabbed my hand and asked me if we could be more than friends from now on. My heart skipped 2 beats and my eyes widened. Here I was feeling depressed that my feelings would never be returned, and here he is, proving me wrong in the best way possible. Anyway, we're now making things work between us, and we're making plans to move in together in a house after he graduates. If you told me 7 years ago that I would end up in a gay relationship with my best friend, I would have laughed, but here I am now, an official gay man, and I love it. Story 3. Coming out as trans to my Q-dad. I have zero hope that coming out will go well, but there is a huge part of me that doesn't even care anymore. I know that this will be the straw that breaks what remains of our relationship, and part of me is relieved that I'll no longer have to listen to horrible Q ramblings. Another part of me is horribly depressed that I will have officially lost my father. I have so many great memories with my dad, ones where he was the complete opposite of what he is now. I remember being a young kid and having him teach me all about the world. He used to give me little physics questions, like, how long would it take to go 200 miles if you're going 40 miles per hour, and would explain how it all works when I inevitably got it wrong. He used to be so obsessed with space, the solar system, and the vastness of the universe. We used to go to the local observatory once every few months to take a look at Saturn's rings and all the other wonders of the night sky. Now that same dad believes the earth is flat. That same dad thinks there's a giant dome that surrounds this flat earth, complete with a false sun and night sky to keep up the illusion. The same dad that used to preach equality for everyone, the same dad that loved to repeat all men are created equal, is now the dad disgusted by the mere sight of a trans woman on the street. My dad first started dipping his toes into the far right in 2015 to 2016 when he started watching InfoWars. When he first started watching, I would clown him a lot for being a conspiracy theorist. I'd jokingly tell him to take off his tinfoil hat and return to the real world, and he had no problem laughing at himself then. Eventually, I stopped because I started to feel bad. I hated that every conversation we had included me making fun of his beliefs. It just started to feel wrong. Now, I wish I had never stopped. In fact, I wish had doubled or tripled down. Maybe if I never stopped he would have never fallen this far down the rabbit hole. Maybe one of my jokes or comments would have finally gotten through to him and made him realize how absurd this all is. I know that this is just a fantasy. I know that if I had continued pushing him like that, it likely would have driven him deeper, but my brain wouldn't stop telling me that I should have tried harder. I should have done everything I could to save my best friend from these thoughts. So you see now why coming out to him is unlikely to go well. I'll probably be accused of being brainwashed by the woke left. I'll probably be sent countless videos of right-wing pundits, talking about how delusional trans people are, and that we're all pedophiles. I know whatever he'll have to say about it will hurt me to my core. But weirdly, part of me is okay with this. I'll finally be able to block and ignore him without feeling like I failed him. I'll no longer have to feel guilty about the space that constantly grows between us. The ball will be in his court and I'll be able to walk away gracefully when he decides to throw his tantrum. The other part of me hates this. I don't want to lose my motorcycle trip buddy. I don't want to lose the man who's guided and helped me through so much in life. I don't want to lose my dad. I guess the only question is whether he's okay with losing me. Story 4. My dad found out that I'm trans. I, 15, was getting ready for school this morning and I had put on a dark blue and red striped shirt and I had put my binder on underneath it. I heard a knock on my door and said, "Come in." My dad opened the door, looked me up and down and said, "That's a boy's outfit." I'm not out to my family yet, so all I said was, "I can change if you don't want me wearing this." It seemed like a reasonable response. He kept repeating over and over again that it was a boy's outfit, so I kept repeating that I could change. Then he said, "You know there are only 2 genders, right? And that you're a girl, right?" I outwardly cringed, and all I said was, "Okay." I didn't know what to say. It was literally 7 in the morning and I was just trying to get ready for school. He kind of looked at me funny and said, "You're a girl, right?" I didn't know what to say, so I just stayed quiet. After a few moments I said, "Can we not do this right now? It's 7 in the morning. Can we talk later?" "It won't be a talk," is all he said. I asked him what that meant, but he completely changed topics to when I have theater practice. I am currently at school writing this. I have no clue what's going to happen when I get home and he gets off of work, but I'm a little scared. He's really religious and listens to those weird alpha male podcast things. I know he won't throw me out of the house or anything, but I don't think he'd rule out sending me off to a religious camp or something. I don't know. I was left home alone for a solid 3 hours. I eventually called my stepmom and asked her where everyone was. They were at my family's business having some kind of meeting. They got home, my dad was sitting downstairs and I just talked with him. Usual stuff like, "How was your day? Can I get you anything?" etc. He told me that he was really tired and we left the conversation at that. I cannot describe or explain how relieved I am that he didn't just sit me down and talk to me. I did pack an emergency bag just in case something goes wrong in the next couple of days. I fell asleep on my couch last night and I woke up to him making coffee in our kitchen. He was actually really nice this morning, kept asking me if I was alright. I think it's gonna be okay for a while. Story 5. I feel like my relationship with my dad has been deteriorating since she came out as trans. 20 FMCIS and my father came out as a transgender woman a few months ago. I am trying to be supportive and feel awful whenever I think I'm letting her down, but there's just something different about our relationship now. For context, well, I'm not sure exactly what to say, so I'll list some stuff. My parents are divorced and I've been having some grief with my father about how she's dated several women, and married one, since then and broken up because while of course, she should date if she wants to, I was a child and teenager at these times and felt like parental figures and sometimes siblings and cousins were being ripped away from me. She doesn't have a stable income and can't afford a lot of important things, doesn't seem to be setting any screen time limits for my younger siblings, and they probably need that, and allows my sister, who is a minor, to do legal drugs, sometimes with our father. I think it's created a bit of a grudge that my father doesn't know about. But obviously none of these things are terrible and some aren't her fault at all, and I don't know why I'm so subconsciously against trying to connect with her. I just feel like her personality changed so much after she came out and that was the final nail in the coffin. And there's not even anything wrong with her personality now. More confident, more comfortable with showing positive and negative emotions, has some different hobbies and different music tastes, wants to talk about different things, is very optimistic, different friends. I'm an adult now and I know that means I'm not the center of attention anymore, but I find I don't like spending time with her as friends. I miss the way she used to be, and I miss when I liked her as my father. I've also been reluctant to go out with her, anywhere, because we get stares from everyone and I hate that. I don't want to be uncomfortable around my father, and I want to be supportive and a good daughter, but all I feel is upset and in turn that makes me feel immature and selfish. But I don't want to bottle up all my feelings, punish myself for them, and pretend I'm fine either. What steps can I take to improve my side of the relationship?